taking any chances. Welcome to Ogles channel. Thanks for watching today. Now, Resident Evil 8 came out pretty recently, Village, and I was very, very, very excited about it because it's like a mix of Bloodborne, which obviously I love a ton, mixed with, Resident Evil. And I've not played a Resident Evil game since probably the PlayStation 1, and so this was sort of a jumping back into the series for me, and I'm really glad I did because I think this game is amazing. It's honestly one of the best games on the PlayStation 5 so far. So today, let's break down what is so great about Resident Evil 8 Village. Let's start off simple. I love the logo for this game. How Village becomes Resident Evil 8 when they change the color of the VILL. Amazing. Better than what I could have come up with for sure, because I probably would have done something stupid like smash the Evil and the Village together, making it Resident E-Village, followed with just a standard number 8. This is why I don't design game logos, but also why I can appreciate great game logos. As soon as you start, it asks if you want a recap of Resident Evil 7. And I guess I was under a box all these years and I thought that Resident Evil games were sort of like the Final Fantasy games and not connected story-wise at all, but clearly I was very wrong. This recap felt fine, but I also felt like there was a lot missing. I mean, it's a 12-hour game condensed down to just simply 2 minutes. So I was a bit behind on the story from the get-go. However, while I think a full understanding of the Resident Evil 7 story would have made understanding 8's story better, I don't think that's a requirement because I still enjoyed this game a lot as I was going through it. Now the game itself opens up with a storybook scene that is meant to be symbolic of the overall story of the game, but that's not really filled in until the close of the game where you get to hear the end of the storybook. In just the opening part, we have a girl who journeys into the forest. She meets 3 creatures and they all give her a gift and are super kind to her. Yes, they look and sound sort of creepy, like giving her blood to drink and things like that, but they do seem kind in their gestures. She then meets a 4th creature and just assumes that he's also going to give her a gift, like any normal person would assume because all the last ones gave her a gift, so she takes what she thinks is a gift from the beast. But no, not at all. This beast gets all angry, summons the other 3 creatures and they all do a group glare and judge the little girl for being all greedy. Then a witch comes along to pile on some more judgment upon her and traps her in a mirror, maybe so she can look at herself and feel judged by herself as well? Not sure. But talk about an intense journey into the forest. So much judgment, so much pain, so much agony. You know, when I usually just go into the forest, I find things like pine cones and things like that. But to each their own. Then we have Mia close the storybook that she was reading to Rose as Ethan, which is the character that you control, complains about it being too dark for a kid. I tend to agree with that. Then we go and take Rose to her crib and come back down for dinner. Seems like a normal story of a happy family where
everything's gonna be...
Mia! Everything was not okay. Next thing, Chris Redfield shows up, takes my daughter, and I wake up in a crashed van in a small village in Eastern Europe. So we went from this
local recipe
to this in under 2 minutes. Talk about a game ramping up fast. We didn't journey through this desolate little town, creating a great and haunting mood for this game, which is where we finally get our first weapon too, from this soon-to-die fella. Thanks for it. Sorry you had to die. You seem like a cool guy, but thanks for the gun. We then continue our journey, killing a few of these werewolf-looking creature mutants, picking up items, learning how to combine items to make things like health, bullets, and such. And I know I'm fairly early in the game at this point, but I love how they give you just enough ammo to make it feel like I'm constantly about to run out, but I rarely do. It's a great little anxiety aspect that they add to this game just to make it that much more intense. This whole area is sort of like a tutorial though, to get you to understand how the game works. Find clues or items that allow you to solve puzzles and open up more areas to progress with a decent bit of fighting as you go along. Eventually you make your way to the entrance of the castle and you're captured and taken to Mother Miranda, where you get to meet all the core bosses that you're going to have to fight to possibly get your daughter Rose back. Then Mother Miranda says to let Heisenberg take me away and finish me off, and let's just pause for a second there, because can anyone else really be named Heisenberg anymore?
Say my name. Heisenberg.
Should they have gone with something like Scraggly or something like that? There's only one Heisenberg now.
You're goddamn right.
We then progress to a pretty intense escape scene full of traps and tauntings and finally meet our local salesman and possibly only friend in the game. Duke. Duke makes appearances throughout the whole game, and he's always a welcome sight. I mean, look at him. It's Duke. He sells you items, upgrades your weapons, buys you treasures, and even teaches you how to cook some meals for character upgrades. I mean, what a guy. Duke. From here, you're basically on a journey to conquer the 4 main associates of Mother Miranda and rescue a piece of your daughter in each one's area. That's right, a piece of your daughter, because she has been split up into 4 parts so she can later be put back together as a sacrifice for Mother Miranda. Now, I am positive that Ethan had to be disappointed when he only got the first part of his daughter back after expecting her to be rescued. I don't know, it's just a hunch. You then have to go in a specific order of the 4 levels, and what I love most about this is that all 4 levels all feel so varied for this type of game, and not just with the scenery but also with the gameplay. The first level focuses on a mix of action, exploration, and puzzles, while the second level has almost no action and is more of a survival thriller. The third level brings in more of a focus on puzzles again, and then the final level finishes off by focusing nearly exclusively on being a shooter. By doing this, to keep the game extremely fresh throughout the entire experience, and I really like that about a game. The first level, Castle Dimitris, has you journeying through this luxury castle, solving puzzles and defeating the 3 daughters of Lady Dimitris, who are terrifying. The puzzle difficulty in this level is just right, where they don't seem impossible to figure out, but they're also not just mind-numbing collect fest either. This game really is great about balance in so many ways. This level also has some genuinely horrifying moments in the game, which are even more horrifying if you didn't play the 7th game in the series. Also, speaking of horrifying moments, just trying to sneak around and avoid Lady Dimitris just for her to pop out of nowhere is as good a jump scare as you'd see in any of today's current movies. Also in this level, the game really gets to showcase off for the first time just how tight the action, how tight the controls are for the game. Now, I'm not the best at first-person shooters, but never once did I feel like the controls were the reason that I died from the game. If anything, the controls and the tightness of them made me feel like I was actually pretty good at first-person shooters, which I know is a lie, but the game allowed me to feel that way, which is pretty impressive for me. Now the level comes to a climax when you battle Lady Dimitris' true form, which is legit a great looking boss in this game, and it also is going to set the stage for more and more creature transformations throughout, so you have that to look forward to as sort of a precursor. Now, after defeating her, you do head back to the village, because between every single level, they also work in some time to explore the village yet some more. And every time you do explore, you find some key upgrades, food to make recipes out of, and even new weapons themselves. And it's after this first level that you get your first new weapon, which is going to be the grenade launcher. This weapon will become your best friend on some future bosses, especially in the second half of the game. This between core level village exploration though is a vital part of the game, and it also offers some of the most fun that you're going to have when it comes to exploring side missions for new helpful items. After some exploring though, you will be heading off to your second core level. And this level is going to focus on defeating Angie, a bridal doll, and her commander to reclaim yet another part of Rose. Where the first level was a mix of action, exploration, and puzzles, this level is just straight up survival horror. I actually don't think I fired my weapon a single time in this entire level. And while that might seem boring, this is almost certainly the best level in the entire game. They knew how to terrify people, and with the eerily organized yet desolate house, dolls and doll parts scattered throughout, medical room and this medical study, and of course the giant bloody fetus baby to chase you in the lowest of lighting conditions, they did just that. They terrified people with this level. Seriously, this thing here and the chase scenes are potentially the scariest moments I've ever had in a video game, period. Now you do eventually get to fight Angie the doll, however, even this isn't a skill, a test of shooting and things like that. It's just a jump scare of searching for the possessed doll within the house and then stabbing her with a pair of scissors within a cutscene. This level was excellent though, and honestly, this is the high point of the game. You then proceed to the ultimate fun Gus level and take on Salvatore Monroe within the caves and the swamps. This level is less survival horror than the last level and tends to focus more on the puzzles and exploration, sort of similar to the first level. Now, I generally don't like swamp levels in games, and this is no real exception to my usual rule, and especially after following the amazing second level. However, this is the shortest level in the game, and it does allow for the main story to progress. But I'm not going to give away anything too major to ruin the game, especially for the new players watching the review. This level does have one of the best fights in the game though, with plenty of room to run around, plan attacks, and attempt to take down this mutated form of Salvatore Monroe, who perhaps has the best line in the whole game? I can't imagine why she wouldn't, Salvatore. I just really can't imagine. You're then marked by Heisenberg and take your last track to get the final piece of your child back, and this portion of the journey is perhaps the biggest change in gameplay yet. The level travels through caves and science experiment futuristic factories, if that phrase makes any sense, and really allows the puzzle and horror aspect of the game to take a backseat, nearly purely in favor of becoming a first-person shooter. I think they were trying to keep the game as fresh as possible until the very end, and this swapping of genres was honestly a great strategy to do just that. The journey to Heisenberg also includes some great mini-bosses who, truth be told, were actually better fights or better battles than Heisenberg himself, but this level, despite being more action and horror, was a great way to lead to the home stretch of the game. Now, obviously the game is going to close out fighting Mother Miranda. However, despite discussing the main levels so far and the main bosses, I want to keep the core story surprises story-free, so we're just going to leave it at that. That's the final boss in the game. Just know that the final lead up to the boss fight and the ending, they all fit perfectly together to create an excellent story finish. Now when you are finished with the story mode, how's the replayability on a game like this? Well, there's actually plenty of reasons to go back and play the game yet again, even when you finish, because they add more difficulty modes in, the optional bosses that you might have missed the first time around, you get new weapon upgrades on your second or third run, and so many collectibles. It'd be tough to actually get all this done in one single playthrough, so most players probably won't be finished with the game after just going through it one time. Now if you can't tell, I think this game is extremely well done. The level design, the weapon upgrades, the crafting system, the boss design, the overall story, it's just a great game. Now, I haven't played a Resident Evil game in probably 20 years, and this game has revitalized my interest in the series, and I know some of the ones in the series are actually considered multiplayer games. And I know that this one's a single-player experience, however, I would actually argue that this one could be considered a multiplayer experience as well because of the involvement of the people watching the game. My wife and I played the whole thing together, and when you're not the person playing, you are still there suggesting ideas for the puzzles, where to explore, and just helpful reminders to make the game feel like a co-op experience. Plus, even when you're not playing, since the game is so well executed with its anxiety-riddled levels, the person watching is just as likely to experience the same scares as the main player. Honestly though, if you haven't given this game a try yet, I would highly recommend picking the game up and giving it a playthrough. It's a very solid game with the amount of depth and the variety built into it. I think every player will find something to enjoy within this game. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and as always, go out there, find a great game to play, and just simply have a great rest of the day.